Where Magic Slept, Chapter 1. The fire was dying. A few tongues of flame licked at the logs, casting long, twitching shadows over the circle of strangers. Bram sat beside his mother, half frozen, half listening to the stories passed around the campfire. Their welcome here, like every other, was conditional and brief. His mother never let them stay long, not when the price of warmth was always laced with risk. But for now, the fire held back the chill, and the murmur of voices gave the illusion of safety. Across the flames, the fading yellow glow brushed away the dark from her face. A beautiful stranger. She didn't flinch or turn away like most women did. She let the firelight reveal her face, and Bram felt unprepared for that. Most women he'd seen kept their heads down, half-shrouded. But she met him barefaced. Her cheeks burned with the soft pink of warmth returned to cold skin, not from the fire, but from something deeper. Her red scarf laced with gold thread shimmered like threadbare royalty. His mother's voice haunted him. Men only want one thing. But staring into the glow that traced the girl's cheek, Bram wondered, was this the monstrous want she meant? What he felt wasn't hunger to take, but an ache to fall forward into warmth, to belong, to be seen. It felt human, not dangerous. When the pair of them had stumbled on this camp, it was in a moment of desperation. Suspicion met them, as always. Even so-called peaceful nomads bled the weak when it suited them. Warmth was bartered, never offered. As always, his mother was led to a tent while he waited by the fire, left to wonder what price she paid for their place at the circle. After a short time, his mother returned, just as a fresh log was added to the fire. The flames leapt higher. As if feeding on secrets, a story unfolded in the smoky air, carried on the voice of a broad-shouldered man with weather-chapped lips. There was never a more beautiful sight than the sun dipping below the horizon, but it was Alidor's greed that ensured we would never see the sun again. "Proof, Malik!" a man scoffed. "Where's your proof winter will end?" Malik's voice rose with conviction. "Why, it's in the snow that nourishes us. It's in the rhythm of day and night, and if one could rise above the clouds, they'd see the sun still shines. So let us wander in faith and goodwill." Bram felt his mother leaning close, her hand brushing a bit of frost from his hair, a tender motion that startled him. For a heartbeat he thought she might smile, and then she cooled. "It's not goodwill they speak of in the tents. Don't trust words spoken around a campfire, my boy." Bram nodded faintly, letting her words settle inside him like all her lessons, etched deep, traced and retraced until they became part of him. "Enough," Gorham snapped, rising half out of his seat. "If you've no new tale, then shut your mouth." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group like low wind. "What about the root sworn, father?" asked Malik's daughter. "That's not a story these people want to hear, Lyria," Malik said softly. "Of that I'm most sure. Why not let them judge it for themselves?" "Yeah, what she said," another voice chimed in. "Let us decide if you're even fuller of shite than we thought." The jab earned a wave of laughter, loud and sudden. Bram noticed the look he gave Lyria, how Malik watched her with pride, not for her boldness, but for something gentler. He could see it in the way Lyria held herself, arms crossed, like she was hugging her own spirit to keep it from slipping away. "When the frost forgets her name, and the blood of the bound touches earth again, we shall wake. We, the root-sworn, the keepers of the last light," Malik said with a faraway stare and hopeful smile on his lips. One he shared with Lyria, and before Bram realized it, one he shared with them too. Lyria noticed. Their eyes met for a beat too long, and for once, Bram didn't pull away fast enough. And he smiled. When he was young, he once asked his mother why she never smiled. "Because softness rots," she'd said, "and I won't spoil for you." That had been the end of it. No laughter, no warmth. But here, across the fire he didn't build, a woman he barely knew had offered him more with a glance than his mother had in years. "The hell'd you just say?" blurted a man, echoed by a chorus of confused grunts and shifting feet. "Just listen, Gorham," Lyria said, her voice low and firm. "When the balance broke and the sky turned white, the wolves and birds forgetting their song, some knew the thaw of winter would not come quickly. We had taken too much, bound more than we gave. And so the winter came, not as punishment, but as a consequence, and those loyal to the old balance chose not to flee it, but to root themselves deep within it." "The only thing I want to escape is this story," Gorham growled, "and go root myself deep in your daughter." Gorham blew her a kiss. "Try and root yourself," Lyria said sweetly, raising a curved blade, "and I'll root back." Laughter rang out. Even Gorham chuckled. Malik didn't miss a beat as he slipped back into the tale. As I was saying, from each village came the most faithful stewards of magic to the kingdoms of Venandir and Valderath. They left behind their homes and titles, gathering beneath the oldest boughs of Venandril, and together they said, "We offer ourselves not to die, but to sleep, to sink beneath bark, ice, and time, to become dream and marrow, to carry the old ways in silence until the world can bear them again." And so they swore their offering to Venandril, the root mother, the great tree, the giver of magic, and the people called them fools. On that we can all agree. Gorham bellowed, "Oh, great tree of magic, won't you take me into your arms or your boughs and eat me whole?" The fire circle erupted with laughter, louder than before. "They were not fools, and they are not dead," Malik said firmly. "They are root sworn. And when the one comes whose blood wakes the land, when golden veins stir and the animals return, they shall rise, not as kings, not as gods, but as guides, to remember, to bind again in balance." Bram's heart beat in rhythm with the firelight, fast, uncertain, wild. Something inside him stirred. He didn't understand why, but the words felt meant for him, as if whispered across the century. "Why did they have to become root-sworn?" Bram asked softly. "And why did the forever winter need to come at all?" Malik smiled, pleased. "A fine question, young man," Malik said warmly. The praise flamed in Bram's chest like an ember. He wanted to keep it there, to feel its heat in the cold corners where his mother's words had carved themselves in him. Malik leaned in, lowering his voice like he was sharing a secret meant for those who still believed in the old stories. "It was Alador who broke the pact, who drank Venandril's gift too deeply. Not all believe he was wrong. Many followed him and follow him still. The Order of Alador still drunk on power and pleasure, blind to the scale tipping beneath their feet. Some say he still speaks in dreams, in frozen waters, in the wind that finds the ears of those mad enough to listen." Beside him his mother shifted, her eyes sharp as icicles, flicked to Lyria and back. "I think I've heard enough for one evening. I'll be turning in now," she said, voice clipped. "Rest before the weather worsens, and watch yourself around that girl." Bram glanced at her. "You're going to bed?" She nodded once and disappeared into the dark, back to her bedroll. Around the fire, the camp began to settle. Blankets unfurled, the bodies of the tired were pressed tightly together to preserve warmth. The laughter faded to murmurs, then to breath, then to stillness. But Lyria remained where she was. Without Bram's mother to stop him, that left an opening, and Bram for once dared to move toward it. Bram tried to make his voice drop lower, steadier, more masculine. "Evening, Lyria," he rumbled as he approached. She jolted, spinning, hand flying to her curved blade. For an instant, fear flared in her. Then recognition softened her into amusement. "Oh," she said, her laughter light. "I thought you were Gorham, finally trying to make good on his earlier offer." Bram's face burned hotter than fire. I just wanted to..." His voice cracked, trying to climb back into its normal register. "To talk, maybe. Oh, and I'm Bram, by the way." Lyria tilted her head, openly studying him. The firelight reflected in her eyes, gold flickering over brown. She shifted aside on the log, patting the space next to her. "Then talk, Bram, by the way. Or are you here to practice growling?" Embarrassed, but undeterred, he sat stiffly, hands knotted in his lap, the fire warming only the front of him, while the cold chewed at his back. "I liked your father's story," he said at last. "Me too," she replied, voice low but firm. "It's my favorite. Until now, I think I've been the only one he ever tells it to. Because he's afraid people will mock it?" "Not afraid," she said, shaking her head. "The wise guard their love, for many scorn its goodness. Yet, when they give their heart, they give it whole. Most men don't deserve that kind of love." Bram stared at his boots. "I don't know what that's like. I imagine it's nice." "It is," her tone softened. "I hope you find it someday. In forever winter, it's the only thing that can thaw a person." She offered him a tankard of melted snow water. Their fingertips brushed as he took it. A shock of warmth darted up his arm and into his chest, scattering the frost that lived there. "You and your father don't seem to fit in here," Bram said after a pause. "How do you make it work?" "They're idiots," she said plainly, "but harmless. We tolerate their brand of noise, and they tolerate ours. It's an arrangement, though sometimes it wears thin." Before he could stop himself, the words slipped free. You and your father, you could come with us if you want." He hadn't realized how wide his eyes had grown and how much hope had crept into his voice. She laughed at his boyish exuberance. "That's sweet. You're sweet." Her smile lingered as though it hid a secret she was testing in the air. "I don't think I've ever said that to a man before." He gripped the tankard tighter, unsure what to do with the feeling filling him. They leaned closer without meaning to, and their shoulders brushed. She reached out and took Bram's hand in hers. A wave of heat moved through him, an unfamiliar kind of calm, one that spread into his chest and let him breathe a little deeper. "Maybe I was too eager to ask," Bram said, his voice quieter now. "But there's something about you. I don't know what it is. I just know I feel it, and I can't look away." She searched his face. "A different kind of hunger, yes?" He swallowed. I suppose it is. I know it too." Her voice had a note of wonder, as though she was surprised she felt it too. She reached over with her other hand and laced her fingers with his. She leaned closer. "You're brave to feel it," she said. "Most people are cowards. They hide behind jokes and knives, but you let it show. My mother said men are monsters that only crave one thing. If I feel these things, does that make me one? You don't seem like them." Bram's gaze dropped to the ground, his thoughts as tangled as the branches of a tree. "I want to believe that, but maybe I'm just better at hiding what's inside." She smiled, an understanding kind of smile. "People think they're better at hiding than they are, but in a world of white drifts, nothing stays hidden for long." Bram's heart quickened. "I like that," he muttered. "I like you, and that feels true." A twisting weight of longing and fear coiled in his chest. He squirmed under it, the desire to do something he'd never done. Lyria sensed it. She even knew what it was. "But still," she asked softly, "what is it?" Bram looked to the night sky as if the answer might be written there. Finally he spoke. "I want to kiss you, but I can't get myself to do it." Her shoulders eased, and a hopeful sigh slipped past her lips. "Well, I'm sorry to hear that." And he knew. His hesitation itself felt like proof that his mother's words were wrong. Yet unraveling the tangle of deeply rooted, manipulated truths, beliefs pressed into him by the voice of a woman he loved and was supposed to love him, was no simple task. He knew this truth in his bones. It would always be this way unless he learned to move against them. He turned to her, ready to try. But Lyria moved first. She leaned in, lips slightly parted, her breath warm against the night's cold edge. Bram didn't move. He waited until she reached him. The moment their lips touched, his eyes closed. He had never known comfort like this, never felt a kiss. But now he was somewhere else, a place untouched by winter. In her kiss he tasted spring and summer, and in each breath between, the hush of autumn. For a moment he understood the rootsworn, those who vowed their lives in devotion. He could have sworn himself to her then, consequences be damned. But like all beautiful things, the moment came to an end. "Rest well, Bram," Lyria whispered. "We can talk again in the morning, I hope." He nodded, the gesture soft and slow. It was all he could give, but for Lyria, it was enough. She had felt it too. That sudden warmth, that impossible hope, and for the first time in her life she felt she could lay her blade down among men and not regret it. As Bram laid down, his mother spoke up. She had been listening to the whole conversation, only pretending to be asleep. Her sudden words froze him. "Her words are lies, Bram. All women lie when they want something. You think she wants you? She wants your warmth, your hope, and she'll bleed you for it." Bram's heart twisted. "She'll take you from me," she said, voice thick with venom. "I won't let her. Now go to sleep." He wanted to speak, to defend Lyria, but the weight of years of motherly wisdom pressed his tongue down. He was a boy again, small beneath his mother's shadow. He lay there, feeling the fire inside him shrink into coals. Sleep came slow, but the warmth Lyria had given him lingered, fighting against the chill of his mother's words as he drifted to sleep. Somewhere in the middle of the night, the quiet was broken. A soft crunch, like a misstep against brittle ice, cracked through Bram's dream. He stirred, unsure if the sound could be a coal popping in the fire or something else. He rolled over slowly to find shadows flickering around the campfire. Several men stood over the sleeping nomads. Over Malik, the fire caught the glint of steel. Malik's eyes snapped open, but he didn't cry out. He looked toward Lyria, his lips parting as though to speak her name. Then the knife fell. Red bloomed across his chest, and the sound of his breath tore through the night. The blade returned, and the light in him guttered out. The camp was a mess. He couldn't tell who was who, nomads or strangers, their wool masks blurred with the night. One figure screamed while another laughed. The world was spinning, but his body would not move fast enough to catch it. Lyria leapt into Bram's arms, bladeless and afraid. Bram's body, still emerging from a dream, finally felt real with her in his arms. Bram's arms tightened instinctively around Lyria. He tried to stand, to shield her. "Stay low," he hissed, fumbling for her curved blade beside him. But then his mother was there. She tore Lyria from him. "Run!" she barked. Bram ignored her and stumbled after Lyria, but froze at the flash of steel. He met the gaze of the raider who stood above her. He moved to lunge at him, hoping to beat the man's sword, but slipped, and as he fell, so did the sword. He saw it pierce her chest. Bram looked on as she knelt impaled. Her body gave its last few breaths. On her final breath, she said one word, one final gift she could leave Bram with: "Remember." And with that, the sword was removed, leaving her to fall limp and lifeless upon the snow. The color gone from her cheek, now dripping from the blade. He failed to protect her. To Bram, it felt like he had died with her. He felt like cutting away from his mother, leaving behind her rules and striking out on his own. But right now, he needed to survive the fight. He transmuted all the pain, the hate, the sorrow into controlled fury. The man smiled at his handiwork, his face scarred in an unnatural way, but Bram cared not, for the loss of Lyria it sent him headlong through the air and into the man's chest, taking him to the ground, blade be damned. Bram secured the fiend's sword with one hand while he pushed himself up with the other. When his fist struck the man's mouth, it felt soft. It didn't have the same cutting sting that came when a fist found solid bone or teeth. This creature had no fight. He was another parasite, the worst kind of man. Bram knew he would end his life, but before he did, he desperately searched the man's eyes for a trace of evidence he could use to prove what we become is all choice. But he only found his own hand plunging Lyria's wet blade into another man's heart. Then the camp was quiet. With the fighting done, he looked back to tell his mother it was time to go. He found her lifeless, staring back at him through hollow eyes. His breath quivered, shaking with loss. He cried out, aching for answers to why the world held such cruelty. Why is it every time I touch something good, it is ripped from me? His voice cried in his head. Damn me for believing this would be different. His wide eyes freed tears only to freeze on his cheeks. Bram's mother had made him promise he would continue going even if she were to die. Now he hoped he could still obey his promise. Damn that word. Hope. Before he stepped away from Lyria, he noticed her red wool scarf spilling out from beneath her coat. At first his bleary eyes missed it, but then he saw the tree, Venandril, her golden veins stitched into the scarf, roots winding outward in subtle, sacred lines. Maybe the scarf holds magic, and if I carry it, I carry her with me. He knew it wasn't logical, but the process of grief is nothing if not illogical. He removed her scarf with ease, as if she unbound the knots and freely gave it. He placed the scarf around his neck and tucked it into his own coat. It warmed him, but it was her scent on the scarf that soothed his spirit. Before he left her, he bent down and gently kissed her forehead and whispered, I will always remember. With his mother, grief had come slow and tangled, a dull ache of duty, guilt, and memories he couldn't trust. He mourned her more for what she'd endured than for what she'd been to him. But Lyria was different. There was no twisted roots beneath this sorrow, just the sharp, honest cut of losing something he barely had time to want. He tucked Lyria's curved blade into his cart. He didn't imagine he'd ever use it again, but wanted to carry more than her scarf with him. And with a cold and heavy heart, he gripped the handle of his cart and set out, newly burdened, into the frozen wild.